Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a video of a brother who in his video talks about why we the black community keeps on bashing white people for slavery and why we don't ever talk about the Arab slave trade, which enslaved more black people than the Europeans combined. Now this is a very interesting video, so make sure to watch this video to the end. For now, let's have a look at his video.
You guys keep bashing white people for slavery, but why don't we ever talk about the Arab slave trade and keep in mind that the Arabs have enslaved more black people than the Europeans combined? Once again, keep in mind that the Arabs have enslaved more black people than the Europeans combined. The Arab slave trade typically dealt in the sale of castrated male slaves. Black boys between the age of 8 and 12 had their scrotums and penises completely amputated to prevent them from reproducing. About 6 of every 10 boys bled to death during the procedure, according to some sources, but the high price brought by eunuchs on the market made the practice profitable. And to add insult to injury, black people are still being enslaved in Libya in 2021. Look it up.
Now, after watching that clip, I feel it is something that we should talk about. I'm not going to, share my views on this yet, but I want us to look at what people had to say about this video in these teachers. And when I get back, we talk more about the Arab slave trade. So make sure to watch the video to the end. Here are the teachers.
You guys keep bashing white people for slavery, but why don't we ever talk?
Hi, for more reference, please look at the video. Now, we need to address the Arab slave trade, particularly on the side of the Indian Ocean, because most of the discussions, the research, everything around the transatlantic has been done extensively. It's not complete. I doubt if it will ever be complete, but we have had extensive research that has been done, history that has been done, data that has been collected that are, connecting the dots as far as the transatlantic slave trade is concerned. But we are lacking to do this on the eastern coast or on the Indian Ocean slave trade, particularly when it comes to the Arabs and the slave trade. Mark you, the Arab slave trade lasted 13 centuries. It came before the white people. The white people left and they were still continuing right up to 1960. Let that sit. Some of us think it was so far away, we don't need to think about it. But there are people who are alive who were born in 1960, even earlier, that can talk about the slave trade, how it was for the Arabs to come inside a village and hunt people down like animals. We need to really address the Arab slave trade. We need to find out where are our relatives that they took through the peninsula route. Where are they? Can we find and do some DNA to find that we may be having relatives on the other side? I think it's about time that we really address the Arab slave trade and consequently the Arab racism. Because for both racism, white racism and Arab racism, they needed to dehumanize the black skin. And racism is only there because of our skin color. Sorry. Because of our skin color. Because we were the ones who were dehumanized. They needed a construct to be put out there in the world to ensure that it justifies and it clears their bad conscience as to why it was necessary to introduce racism. So we need to talk about the Arab racism and we need to talk about the white racism, the slave trade on both sides.
The most important source of slaves in medieval Europe was the coast of Bosnia on the eastern shores of the Adriatic Sea. Now, Duncan Clark defines slavery as the reduction of fellow human beings to the legal status of cartels, allowing them to be bought and sold as goods. Now, this in essence is what both the Arabs and Europeans did to Africans to justify the shipping of millions of Africans as slaves to faraway lands in Asia, in particular the Middle East and the Americas. Now, the African S trade, surely one of the most tragic and disturbing episodes in the history of mankind, has had its origins in the intervention of forces from the civilizations that developed in the regions of the Mediterranean Sea, today's Europe and Middle East, into the area of the more fragmented civilizations of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, Africa became a source of slaves for the cultures of the Mediterranean world many centuries before the discovery of the Americas, but it was that discovery that the resulting shift in focus towards the Atlantic that promoted the culminating explosive growth in slavery with such tragic effect. Now, over the years, global focus and the discourse on slavery has concentrated more on the transatlantic trade that featured American and European merchants. But this trade has, however, remained largely ignored and at times has been treated as a taboo subject, despite being a key component of African history, owing the devastating impact it has had on the continent, its generations, and its people's way of life. Now, it is noted as the longest ST having occurred for more than 1,300 years, while taking millions of Africans away from their continent to work in foreign lands in most inhumane conditions. Let's check out a few comments and hear what people had to say about this video. Now, the first comment reads, "Finally, someone is talking about this. Why is this never spoken about? Because I have never heard about this. This can't be forgotten or forgiven. People need to open their eyes and stop talking about the past and deal with people enslaved today. Put passion into saving and filling those souls." Now, it is a secret. According to the Muslim world, this never happened, but it still is happening now in the modern world. Is this the reason why so many African countries are practicing these Arab religions, where they forced to turn away from their traditional ways? Unfortunately, this information gets ignored. My ancestors were stolen and taken to the barbaric coast, and nobody talks about it. Now it is called exporting labor, but our people are still suffering in the Middle East, yet some governments are silent. This is not over. It's still going in Libya, Mauritius, and some Arab countries. People's passports are taken away from them and locked up. Okay, these are some of the comments from people, and I would really like to hear your thoughts or views on this, my viewers. Like, what do you think about this that has not been discussed by a lot of people? Like, why don't people want to talk about it? Feel free to drop your comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.